annual Badge Summit. I also like to refer to it as the second annual Bowtie and Jim Shorts Badge Summit. Really excited, really grateful to have you join us. Hopefully this is working for everybody as well as we'd hoped. If not, we appreciate your grace and your patience with us as we work through technology issues. Do want to start out with a couple of housekeeping items. And the first thing is just sharing thanks. Thank you to over 450 of you from over 20 countries across the planet for joining us today and making sure that this is just going to be such an awesome event. We appreciate you. And we also really greatly appreciate all of our sponsors. And hopefully we're seeing our sponsor slide right now on your screens. But we have some just awesome companies from this space who've lended their support to just ensure that this happens and ensure that you're able to enjoy it for free. 2 hours of amazing content. Thank you so much to Edlusion and Headstream, to longtime supporters Participate, to Randa and the Teacher World, to Avant Assessment, the Global Seal of Biliteracy, Badger, Digit Inc., and Anthology, as well as our producer Livestream Remote for being here with us. And of course, Paperclip Communications, who offers a number of webinars, including one earlier this week with a Badge Summit alumni, Ann Reed. Thank you so much to our sponsors for making all of this possible. One other quick piece of housekeeping is after Jen's keynote, which will end at 30 minutes after the hour, we do build in a break. We've got that feedback last year. We need breaks between sessions, so we've got you for that. And know that you are going to be able to scroll down on the event page in order to access those concurrent breakout sessions. So if you're here in Mountain Time with me at 40 minutes after the at 1:40, otherwise 40 minutes after the hour, wherever you're joining us around planet Earth, you'll be able to scroll down to the concurrent breakout session of the Eventbrite page and find your session that you want to join. We've got interactive sessions on everything from design thinking to presentations to collaborative feedback. So please do enjoy those. We have over 10 sessions from amazing presenters. Again, we have over four continents represented on those breakout sessions. And if something's not working, the first thing you can do is try to refresh the screen. And after that, we'd invite you to please email us at info@thebadgesummit.com, and we will try and get a technical support for you as quickly as possible. You can also share all of your enjoyment today on social media with hashtag Badge Summit, or tweet at Badge Summit if you need technical support. And with that, I know you didn't come just to hear me blab, so I'm going to turn it over to our keynote presenter. We're just so lucky and so grateful to have Dr. Jen Williams with us. And you may know Jen from her Instagram, where she's hanging out with Jane Goodall. You may know her from her amazing books on educational technology, her keynotes. This is a woman who is a friend, a mentor, an educator extraordinaire to tens of thousands of us across planet Earth. I don't want to steal all of her thunder, but you're going to get to hear about some amazing stuff that she is doing to truly change the world today and impact a better future. And I am so grateful, and I know you will be too, for all of the goodness she is going to be sharing with us. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Jen Williams. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Noah. And I am thrilled to be here with you all and this global audience. I am so excited that Badge Summit is accessible to everyone, anywhere, from any place on this planet, joining in for the learning today. So we are going to be together for the next 30 minutes for a session around badging for social good. And I can't wait to jump in to tell you a little bit about my journey with badging, with the work I've been doing with social good over the past over 20 years of my educational career. I don't want to start without giving thanks to my dear friend, Noah, and he is just this friend to us all. I think that Noah's this type of person who makes everyone feel like their ideas matter. He makes us feel safe. He makes us feel brave and bold. And I think probably a lot of you here would say the same, that he makes you feel like he's just one of your best friends and that is just so special. So thank you to NOAA for bringing us together in these spaces, whether we're in person at Badge Summit or we're online. You always make it possible for us to learn. So badging for social good, I kind of want to start off by just a shared vocabulary around the work that we're doing in our journey in learning about badging for social good. So starting with this term of badging. And for me, when NOAA called out to me and he was like, hey, we're doing Badge Summit again. I'd love for you to kick us off. And I was like, NOAA, you know, I've been kind of on the fringe at the edges of this space, so curious and interested, but there are so many other people who are much more expert in badging than me. And so he was like, no, we want to hear about your journey. So I am so honored to be a part of this and very much say that I am learning from you all. So the people who are here, the sessions that you're going to be a part of this afternoon, these are the people who have really led my journey in badging and learning about badging credentials as we go. And then for social good. So this is the work that I've been doing for a long time. I've been an educator since I was 20. I was in K-12 education, moved to higher ed. Now I have the opportunity to work with classrooms all around the world. Social good, though, for a lot of educators may not be something that they felt was part of their pre-service teacher program, something that they aren't quite sure if they have permission even to do work around social good, because it wasn't part of our training. So social good, oftentimes reserved for the profession of social work. So if we look to social work for good definitions of what social good could look like in education, services or products that promote well-being on a large scale. I hear that and I think that's education. That's the work we are doing. Anchor themes such as environmental justice and sustainability, social inclusion, peace, harmony, and collaboration. These are spaces that educators have existed in since the beginning of our profession. And in about 2015, when the world came together and agreed upon these 17 global goals, the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, this roadmap became a way for educators to really see themselves in this space. They were able to incorporate social good, democratize education, and community efforts from the teachers in the classrooms who were bringing life on land, life on water, gender equality. We have our very own goal with SDG 4, bringing those in the classroom. That idea of social good really started to make sense. So for us, when we set out with the SDGs, we were tasked by the United Nations to find ways to bring the SDGs into our classrooms and to bring our classrooms into the work of the United Nations. And so we set out and said, let's find people who want to do this with us. In the beginning, we were a really small group of educators, and we said, how about we use badges to help bring this community together? And at first, we used badges just to have association. We were looking at using our work. We're not organized as a nonprofit organization. We're just a group of educators from around the world who are trying to bring awareness to the SDGs. Well, that quickly turned into people saying, well, how might I get more credentials to bring me to a level of ambassador? Then people said, okay, I get it. I understand why. How might we do this? So we started to organize global collaboration projects like the Goals Project and the Climate Action Project to bring our teachers together. We started to see teachers and students as co-learners, which is why we think the SDGs are this great way of bringing our classrooms and kind of leveling the playing field to bring things like curiosity and creativity. Everyone can find a place within the SDGs where they fit in. I have humanities teachers saying SDGs are humanities. I have science teachers saying SDGs are sciences, where everyone fits in. So for us, it became a little bit of a challenge in terms of direction. So we said, all right, we're doing a lot of work as volunteers, bringing the SDGs to our classrooms. We're definitely not badging experts. We're creating these badges with free tools, pushing them out to our teachers. Is this a good use of our time? Things like our ambassador program, where we're having people apply, and then we have a global team of educators spending a lot of time to go through a vetting process. So around that same time, when we were saying, should we continue on with this effort of badging? We know a lot of teachers in different parts of the world are saying to us, PD might not necessarily be something that's recognized at the country level. Do we want to continue on? And then one of our earliest ambassadors, and you can see here, Jacob Sule from Nigeria, came to me. And I'll show you his Twitter handle and his bio now, but we'll come back to it, because he came to me as a very young law student, not trained as an educator, not really even, on that path to work in classrooms. But when he arrived at his university, he recognized that children who were graduating from the local programs weren't coming out with the skills that they needed to be employable. So he set out to go find other people in his law school who were interested in going and volunteering. You can see him here in a classroom with about 80 students. So he would go in, you think of, he's in his early 20s at the time, he's going into these classrooms, he's taking about 40 students, they don't have Wi-Fi, they have limited resources, and he's starting to do work with them. He, a Teach SDGs ambassador, coming to me, asking for support. I let him know, Jacob, it's very tricky for us to send resources, but what I can give you is time. I can support your young volunteers with professional development and meet with you as much as you want to find ways to bring instructional design into the work that you're doing. Jacob, as a Teach SDGs ambassador, around that moment, when I was thinking, are these badges just email signatures that people are adding on? Or are they really something that are a credential that can have power in them? And he comes to me and he says, I, as a young law student, now I'm able to go to my Ministry of Education and have conversations and be heard just by using that badge on his email signature. So we shifted gears. We understood that for so many people, these badges had power. These credentials truly mattered. And we decided to lean into them and find ways that we could help teachers all around the world to bring badging and those credentials to the work that they were doing. So badging for social good. Then this brought us to this question. All right, well, if we're going to use badges for social good, how do we recognize things like agency and action and impact? We have all of these beautiful qualitative stories, but how do we take that to the next level? So at the beginning of that story, I told you we were starting off with our journey with the SDGs, looking at how all of those 17 goals could be applied to education. Well, as most people do, we started to narrow, and we really started to do all of our work around 2 SDGs. You can see SDG 4, quality education, at the heart of all of the work that we're doing, and moving that through the lens of climate action, SDG 13. So my nonprofit organization, Take Action Global, this united front of volunteer educators from all around the world, coming together on this mission of climate education for all. So we have projects, as I mentioned. We have teachers who are young and old, and students as young as age 3 all the way up. And we're working through 2 of these principles as we design. So here you can see our theory of change. And so for us, as we're designing our projects, we have this understanding that if we take a group of global youth and we engage them in a shared positive experience, and you can see us sprinkling things in all around that, like experiential learning, use of technology, innovative teaching practices, our mission of access. So I said access to quality climate education for all. So we're looking at how can we provide access to information, to ideas, for opportunities. And we believe if we can find ways to bring youth together, we'll start to see changes in attitudes, beliefs, and behavior. And we'll see sustainable solutions in action, and then active, engaged citizens. And at the end of that is where it really gets interesting, and we start to see that multiplier effect. So what does all that mean for us? Really, it's just kind of shifting from this idea of consumption, and then we're starting to co-create but not co-creating around scenarios. We're actually working to take action on things that matter to the students who we're working with. So we're all about inquiry, we're all about access, and our second guiding principle is all around community. So we look to asset-based community development, something that's not necessarily used in education traditionally, but this is used at more systems levels when cities are coming together and they're looking at development. So moving from this idea of needs-based, where you start to think about things like deficiencies, people as consumers of services, community members that are observing issues that need to be addressed. So moving them from observing and as consumers, where you start to put that into a traditional education bucket, shifting to asset-based, because we all have these assets. How can we focus on things like effectiveness, people as producers, everyone with something to contribute? So for us, we're seeing everyone as having gifts. We have everyone with something to contribute. And then this third point here that you can see, everyone cares about something, and that passion is motivation to act. So those are our guiding principles. This is what's driving everything we're doing with our global projects, bringing those SDGs, SDG 4, SDG 13, teacher professional development, all job embedded, all global, all community driven. And one example of that, as we start to think about our teachers and how we can recognize the work that they're doing in this kind of fuzzy space, is with a project we were doing last spring. So this was a project all around plastics, rethinking plastics, looking at the plastics that we're using, some plastics that are uses that are really great that we need, and some that we can eliminate and adapt from. So one of our teachers, an amazing educator in Belgium, who works with refugee students. And for me, that was incredibly eye-opening when I started working with her, because we do a lot of work with refugees in places like Kenya and our school in the Kakuma refugee camp. But I hadn't really thought about our teachers also working with refugees in places like Belgium, a place where my co-founder, Koen Timmers, is working every day. And so Neen came to our practice of education, not traditionally trained. She joined as an educator late in her life after doing a lot of work in marketing. So she has this class of refugees, and they don't have technology. They don't have access to a lot of the resources we're working with. Many of them are coming together, speaking different languages. So she has quite a challenge herself. And so she said, I'm jumping into this challenge. I'm going to work on Rethink Plastics. We're going to come together. And she started to have these conversations with her young refugee students. And for the most part, many of them came to her and said they didn't even have a translation of the word plastic in their language. They never before had understood that plastics may be harming our planet. So they were up for the challenge. They were all in, and they said, well, let's do what we can and go around the school, find as many bottle caps as we can, and we'll sort them. So it became this lesson in language on sorting and counting and colors. But then they said, let's do something with these for good. So all of the students in her class live in one refugee camp. They don't have access to games. And so you talk about empathy. These students said, we're going to build games with these bottle caps. We're going to reuse these plastics, and we're going to make awesome learning activities for the children who live around us. So you can see here some of the pictures of them creating their games. I mean, some of them are amazing. They remind me of some of the games that my own children played when they were young. So concepts like matching, similarities and differences. You see here, I mean, they're really well designed. And they worked for about 3 weeks building out their games. Then they had a problem, and they started to see that the glue that they were using, because it wasn't new, it wasn't holding up. So they decided they had to find a way to make it work. And they found these little clips, and these clips weren't cheap. So they talked to their teacher. You can see here they made their own logo. They had a name for their little organization that they were creating. And they talked to Neen and they said, we need to talk to the educators, the teachers who you're working with as part of this project. So Neen went on, she created a campaign, and teachers from all around the world were able to contribute to help these young people create ways to make their games more accessible. A couple weeks later, they delivered the games. The refugee camp was able to honor these students in their newsletter. People came and said they wanted to come live in that refugee camp now because they knew that children had games. They became the talk of the town. So what does it have to do with badging? So kind of bringing it back. So now we have this teacher who's done this amazing project. She came up with this all on her own with her students. She hadn't been formally trained. She's working with a global network. She's finding ways to make resources work. This is professional development. She's a content creator. She joins our other teachers who are language translators. We have group facilitators, social media community. We have teachers that are going to the level of policy. They're talking to media. They're leading this work. For us, these teachers are our everyday heroes, and they're fueled by optimism. They're fueled by urgency. So how do we badge for all of this? So for us, for the past several years, we have been offering badges that we issue for some of the experiences our teachers go through. We have badges for things like classroom who are participating, classrooms who are facilitating, presenter. But how can we take this to the next level? So we started to think, if we want to contribute back to this body of knowledge, we have this really unique situation. We are at scale with over 146 countries participating in our work. We have teachers who are working with very young students all the way up through university. We have teachers who, like I mentioned, in Belgium, PD isn't even a thing they do. Continuing education credits isn't something they get. When you're a teacher for life. So we had to go through a series of questions, and we knew we needed to involve others. So here are the questions we started asking, and this has been about 18 months in the works. So the first thing we wanted to do is seek out our trusted experts. As I mentioned, I'm in the work of social good, education, instructional design, climate education for all, and with a specific interest in badging credentials. So I reached out to friends like Noah and Taylor Kendall from the Learning Economy and asked them to share their expertise. Now, if you're new to this badge summit and the badging world, I think what you're going to find is this is a very inclusive group who welcomes everyone in with open arms. They are so kind and giving of their knowledge and their learning. And so they were there with me every step of the way, helping me to think about the questions that we should be asking, telling me, no, that's not a good idea. Don't do that when it felt like it wasn't going in the right direction. So trusted experts. And a lot of these things are what we were doing with our students. So when we were designing our projects, first thing you do, that's what we were telling our students, find your trusted experts. The second thing we would suggest to our students that we started to take in and model our own badging program after, partners in action. So who are our partners that were going to join us along this wild ride that we were about to get on? So we started to look at our opportunities with our interns and say to them that we would like to have an assessment of what badging looks like in different countries. So we have teachers participating from many different places. What does PD look like in those different countries? What are we thinking about in terms of language translation? So we were doing all of this. And then we said that we knew we were going to need leaders to help us to scaffold the experience, because for a lot of our participating teachers, badging was new. So we wanted to help them understand the ways that they could be using badging credentials in their own schools, the way that they could badge their students. So they were joining with us. So we had partners like Riley and Edlusion who've been so incredible helping us to figure this out and finding ways to formalize our process. And going back to our roots, we had our community. So they're helping us to develop out the curriculum. They're helping us to look at what really matters when we think about learning artifacts. What are those moments that we want to capture and share and have reflected within our badges? So then we get to today. And next week, we are so excited and also super nervous to launch out our new credentialing program. So our offering for teachers, where we will have a leveled certification process for teachers. So level 1, 2, and 3. So any teacher anywhere can have access to these opportunities and be recognized for the work that they're doing. We have micro credentials, so we have amazing partnerships with groups like NASA and the United Nations and LEGO and Cartoon Network and WWF. And before, we would have teachers join for these micro challenges, and now we're going to have a way to honor that work that they're doing. So I'll have a lot more information in the coming weeks on how it goes. We've been doing testing. We've been bringing our facilitators in to help us along the way, but we're still left with so many questions. And that's where we'd love for you to come in. As you're joining, if you've been doing a lot in the badging world, we'd love to hear from you. We would love to invite you to help us think about those questions that we want to ask. And so we have a Padlet that we have organized, and things like questions we should be asking, resources we should be considering, moments of collision to watch out for. Who is missing from the conversation? This is something we're asking every day in the work that we're doing. And then a space for badging joy. So we'd love to have you jump in. Noah and I were kind of daydreaming on a possibility of joining in a few weeks, coming back together, seeing how it's going, seeing what we're missing, and we'd love for you to participate in that. As I finish up, in addition to launching out our new badging certification program with Edlusion and our community of educators next week, we also have our culminating event, which is Climate Action Day. So you heard about some of the work we're doing. Right now, we're in the middle of Climate Action Project. So we have 2.5 million students who are joining with us from 146 countries. And next week, we have our big live event. It's open to anyone, anywhere. And so we'll have leaders, climate scientists, and best of all, kids sharing about the work that they're doing, taking action for social good. So we'd love to have you join for that. So with that, I'd love to say thank you. Have an amazing Badge Summit. Thank you to Noah and the team he has brought together to make this happen. And I look forward to talking to you all soon.
Jen's link for her Padlet that she mentioned is now in the chat. For those of you who had issues accessing it, we apologize. We had one bad link on the Eventbrite page. Do know that for the replay, you will be able to catch the entire keynote without any audio issues, without any snafus. It'll be available for you right there on the Eventbrite platform. We apologize for the inconvenience, but hopefully everything will work smoothly from here on out. Please do, if you left the Eventbrite platform, that is where you'll go back to access the concurrent breakout sessions here. In another 10 minutes is when they'll start. So if you're getting waiting for the host to start this session, please just sit tight. They'll be right with you. And please do come back to the Eventbrite for our closing plenary panel. We should have the link fixed for you by the time that works. It'll be just like this with a embedded player. So my apologies. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your patience with us as we navigate this, but hopefully everybody's having a great time. And thank you to Jen Williams for an inspiring and amazing keynote as always. And we will see everybody after the break in 10 minutes. Thanks so much.